Opinion polls indicate that the Jamaica Labour Party is attracting most of the youth voters. The PNP is attracting more older persons. But are the youth really interested in the votes?
The fact that we keep hearing about getting young people involved with certain things, but still, when you look in the Senate or in Parliament itself, I mean, yeah, we see young people, but young people according to who?
Hello, I'm Damion Mitchell, and this is Eye on the Polls, a part of the Gleaners Jamaica Votes series. Today, youth and the election. Joining me on Zoom are Christopher Harper, youth advocate for social and human rights. He is enumerated and will vote, but is not very interested in the voting process because of the overall poor handling of policies. Issia Thelwell is a youth advocate also. She works in tourism. She is the first runner-up in the Miss Jamaica World. She is not enumerated and is also apathetic towards the election process. We also have Joel Nomdarkam. He is a marketer and a journalist, a youth advocate for social and youth issues. He started the enumeration process, but guess what? The election got called, and so he cannot vote this time round. He too, however, is also hardly interested in the electoral process. So let's begin. Let me take you first, Isaiah. Why are you not so very interested in the electoral process?
To be honest with you, I think there's, to some extent, a certain amount of transparency that I anticipate, and I don't think I am getting it at the moment. I mean, I'm 100% for exercising my right to vote. I just don't feel as if it's a forced obligation that I need to execute, and I want to make sure that I handle the responsibility well. Long story short.
So you are interested in ensuring that accountability is maintained, but there's something that's turning you off the electoral process.
Absolutely. I mean, I think to some extent, particularly the mass of who it is that both parties or just the political process in its entirety, who they are geared towards, it's not, I don't fit in that circle to some extent. And as you mentioned, accountability is a big part of the responsibility that I think I have to accept. But at the same time, it's something that I need to hold those people that I'm going to be putting in certain positions in high regard. So
Joel, you were enumerated, but certainly not in time for the publication of the voters list. So you will or will not be getting the chance to vote.
Well, I don't even know if I was enumerated in time because of how backward I think the let me not say backward, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, but how technologically deprived the process was, because I'm from Augustown, born and bred, but I decided to live with my parents in Spanish Town. So when I went to get enumerated at the division responsible for Augustown, I was told that because I'm now residing in Spanish Town, I had to get registered in Spanish Town to be added to the voters list. And then when that process started, I mean, I gave my fingerprints and everything. I had to move from Spanish Town back to Kingston. So I don't even know what happened there, but the interest was there to get enumerated. And it stemmed from the fact that there are so many discussions along the line of young people not being interested, etc. However, policies require you to exercise these franchises, and as such, you know, it's important for us to become a part of the process, and I think by not necessarily forced to do it, but understanding that I had a responsibility to effect change and at least add to seeing how policies can move through. But I mean, we still pay taxes, so some people kind of toe the line between deciding, okay, do I really need to vote because I'm really paying taxes? So I'm really, you know, along that line, but definitely apathetic.
Christopher, you are enumerated, you will vote, but you're not very interested in the process. This is interesting. Why then are you voting?
Yeah, so that's a challenge for me because this would be my third time voting or participating in an election as a voter, that is. But for me, I've been seeing a lot of commentary around improvements in infrastructure, community development, all things I certainly commend. But also as a member of civil society, I have a vested interest in the legal landscape of Jamaica, the policy landscape of Jamaica, and I'm not necessarily seeing that being put to the fore. And for me, that's something that creates my apathy towards the entire, I guess, democratic process surrounding elections, because I want to see, all right, in terms of those who have made some effort to create some kind of policy, to create some better environment in Jamaica for some of our people, what have we achieved there? What new policies do we hope to create? Why have we not really addressed some of the existing policies that have really fallen out of the immediate focus of any government? And that's what's creating my apathy, because going forward, failure to address many of these policies really doesn't translate into a society that truly provides opportunities for people, because having programs and these institutions and committees outside of a policy or legal environment will definitely encounter challenges.
Well, it is often said that your vote is your voice. So if you have been voting, certainly in the last 2 general elections, and your voice is still not being heard, what difference will you make to the process?
So personally for me, I think it's how can I become involved? And when I say involved, I don't mean it from a partisan perspective to see, oh, which party am I going to tie my affiliations with and support, but how can I, as a citizen who understands the democratic process, who understands what it is meant to ensure good governance, so looking at transparency, holding persons accountable, do? And I guess from my perspective, that's why I would have chosen to become an advocate who highlights some of the shortcomings. And in the flip side of it, an advocate who also supports a lot of the work that is being done around developing policy and creating policies, or even creating laws that are really attempting to create some kind of suitable environment for Jamaicans.
Issia, what sort of policies do you want to see become practice in Jamaica?
I mean, I made a promise that I would try to stay as objective in terms of, my opinions and suggestions. Everybody within this youth advocacy space has particular things that they're 100% passionate about. And for me particularly, I mean, my patriotic commitment and obligation really lies within the tourism sector, as well as sustainability in terms of my country and a lot of the cultural heritage that we have. So I'd really, long story short again, I'd want to see policies that are put in place to, one, protect a lot of the service providers that are within the tourism industry, especially because it's one of the largest contributing sectors to the country's economy. 2, I'd like to see more policies that protect the cultural heritage that our country is able to provide, not only within the spaces locally, but internationally, because I definitely see where if we don't control that from an authoritative standpoint, that we are going to miss out on opportunities to continue to capitalize on what is rightfully ours. And secondly, I mean, especially recently, there has been a lot of conversation surrounding preserving natural resources. So I want to see, things like the Blue Mountain, the Cockpit Country, protection of the Maroon community, just policies that, again, protect and contribute to the sustainability of those key areas.
Joel, why is it though? I want to bring in Joel here. Why is it though that we're finding over and over that these policies laid out by administration after administration do not become practice? Is it a matter of leadership at the national level?
It's a matter of leadership at the national level, and it's also a matter of the general apathy that the public will have towards certain things. I don't think that we are strong advocates for a lot of issues. If we should look at any sector that's truly advocates, it's really Twitter Jamaica, where a lot of discussions take place. And as a result of that, you might see some backlash fired up and people are quick to act on certain things.
The 9-day wonders though.
The 9 days wonders, and that is the problem, because discussions start and that's it. I think a part of the challenge is that I don't know if some of the persons who are in these institutions and governing bodies are fit to be leading, because there's absolutely no way. I would feel ashamed if I'm a member of parliament and I haven't worked on one piece of legislative movement while being in power, because I'm so much more concerned with fixing road and water, which is really a councillor's responsibility.
Well, let me put you on the spot, Joel. Let me put you on the spot. If you had a magic wand, who would you X out from the JLP? Who would you X out from the PNP?
I would start a fresh new cabinet on both sides. I feel like it's I feel like.
Sorry, meaning you would go. Sorry, meaning you would start from entirely scratch. So you'd get rid of the entire current membership of the JLP in the cabinet and the shadow cabinet of the PNP?
is a very tough one. It's a tough one. But I would keep it safe to say that I would, and listen why I would. I would because I feel like it should be a team effort to get certain things done. And if something is lagging behind, whether it relates to the handling of even COVID-19 or policies as it relates to young people, the lock situation that we saw, the fact that we keep hearing about getting young people involved with certain things, but still, when you look in the Senate or in Parliament itself, I mean, yeah, we see young people, but young people according to who?
Hold that point. Hold that point. Don't move, because I'm going to ask you quite shortly. Who would you replace the current members of the opposition and the current cabinet with? But let me get the same question to Issia first. Who would you X out of the current cabinet and the current opposition spokesperson or council of spokespersons?
I mean, to be fair, we are only privy to as much of the contributions that these persons put out based on the information that they present us with. So, I mean, I'll maintain my grounds in saying that I can't necessarily think on the spot who it is that I would replace or remove, but I definitely am one to support people that you can see that their contribution or their commitment to making spaces better is paying off. I mean, I have no problem listing some of those people. So
sure, I'd like to hear them. Who are some of those people you'd get rid of?
Top of my head, I mean, I think Floyd Green especially has done a phenomenal job.
So you'd keep him?
All the spaces and portfolios that he has been presented. And especially at a time now where, the world is going through a pandemic, the fact that he has been able to apply a lot of innovative initiatives that again speak to something that I'm passionate about, sustainability.
But Issia, I want to hear who you would X out of the current government or the current cabinet.
I absolutely prefer to always celebrate and highlight the favorable in the sense of contribution. Yes. I personally don't think I know enough about everybody's portfolio and their level of performance to say this person should not be a part of the cabinet or the political process or
the opposition spokespersons.
Because some people are better at presenting, marketing and PR in their efforts than others. So I won't discredit, for example, a Kamina Smith, who is, I think doing a phenomenal job in terms of foreign affairs, but because she doesn't provide us with a weekly or a monthly update within the social or digital space, I'm not going to discredit her efforts because she's not doing as exemplary of a job as somebody that is putting out in the social space.
Well, let's hear from Christopher Harper. Christopher, who would you X out of the current cabinet or the current opposition council of spokespersons?
All right, so without truly tying myself with this question, what I can officially say, however, is that there are certain ministries that we recognize currently, especially in a COVID climate, are in need of clear leadership. And for me, one of the most obvious ones would be the Ministry of Education. Yet parents are still unsure of what's happening next. Persons are still struggling to, access internet connection or find the different platforms to ensure that their kids are able to tune into whatever blended approach that might be taken. Is definitely something that we should be looking into. I suspect post-election that would be one of the pressing actions that whichever administration takes.
All right, so the opposition side now, who would you X out of the opposition's council spokesperson?
In terms of the opposition, my comment is not to say to X out any one individual, but I think there is definitely a room for. All right, let me frame it. So I use
political though, Christopher.
Let me use an issue-based situation. So like with the handling of the states of emergency, whomever I guess was the opposition spokesperson on national security, should have, I guess, taken a bit more of a proactive stance in a little bit more, in a lot more opposition in terms of how we handle whether or not the state of emergency was correctly utilized and to what effect it really had on this whole crime issue. To what extent have we truly addressed the issue of crime through our states of emergency, amongst other things. So I think for me, in terms of how I look at who to act, it comes from a issue perspective, and I guess it's natural that a ministry would have responsibility of that particular issue.
All right, so let's go back now to Joel. And Joel, I'm going to ask you, who would you like to see in government or opposition as the Council of Spokespersons who is not there just now?
I'm still familiarizing myself with the list of candidates, and in all honesty, I must say I am pleased with the level of women that have been placed forward to contest. I think, I don't know, women just bring us a sense of difference, something to the whole field, and I think it's necessary to have that in place. I'm eyeing a Crystal Tomlinson because, for one, I had some series of sessions with young people who are apathetic called Politics in Session, and I had Crystal, I had Howard Chamberlain, and the political ombudsman on. And you know, by Crystal's reasoning, and you know, looking at the fact that you know she was so able to connect with us as young persons who are apathetic, and bring across some really strong points in terms of why it is that we should get involved, breaking it down a little for us. So some of us got a little clarity in terms of how the electorate works and why it's important to participate, etc. I'm eyeing Crystal as somebody who also has, you know, an experience of being in student leadership from UA days and some of the things that she represented, speaking up for disability while she was festival queen. So I'm seeing where some effort from that can be tailored out into that. I'm also seeing another, well, still kind of warming up and getting the professions. Just earlier, I made a call out to see the age of all of them and what exactly is their background, because I need to know, you know, what this is. But off the bat, I can see a Crystal. If I should maintain the balance over the JLP side, Issia mentioned Florida, who's been doing a good job in terms of the Say Yes to Fresh campaign, etc., that came out of the ministry.
The issue of age is coming up in the whole debate on the campaign trail. Do you think there should be an age restriction for persons who are sitting in government or in the parliament in general?
Yes, I do believe so. I don't think it should be any different from what our retirement age currently is. And as we can see, there are a number of parliamentarians who are well beyond the retirement age.
But they're wearing Clarks though, despite their age.
Irrespective of that, not every young person is like, you know, fully into that whole Clarks trend as they might think. So it's also how it shows how they perceive or understand young people as well. To say, oh, we're going to drop the dub plates, we're going to drop the Clarks, we're going to do this, to appeal to the younger voters. Sure, it might very well be appealing to some of them, but it certainly isn't appealing to all of them. But in terms of that age limit, I definitely think that this is a missed opportunity at sustainability, because sure, their experience, sure, they've had years at this particular opportunity, but to what extent are they ensuring that what they know is being sufficiently and adequately transferred to the next generation?
Issia, if you were asked to advise the PNP and the JLP as to how to attract voters, what would you tell them?
I mean, you can see some efforts of it happening now. For one, it's really for them to maintain transparency, especially in this day and age where we have the advantage of the digital space, to use it and maximize the space as best as possible. But also don't just engage people through the digital space. I mean, there are so many young people, especially now with the call of election, that say, hey, I've never seen my MP. I've never spoken to my MP. I don't know what my MP has done. And I mean, as times change, people have access to information more readily. And I mean, we want to make sure that moving forward to contribute to sustainability and to support the efforts of people before us, that we're making very conscious and educated decisions. So like Chris mentioned, you know, fine, the dub plates happen for right now and it's all fun and exciting and we can relate to the Clarks, but okay, I need to know what are the necessary steps that you are going to take to make sure that I can afford a dream home.
Well, hear this now. Joel, complete this sentence for me. If PNP wins... Joel, are you there?
Yeah, man, I'm here. I just trying to work. So if PNP wins, it's a time to reset the entire approach as it pertains to advancing the country. You're going to ask me if JLP win as well?
Yes, that is coming. Christopher, if PNP wins?
If PNP wins, hold on, let me think about this. If PNP wins, I hope that we are able to see the prioritization of social assistance for Jamaicans in need.
Issia?
No, that's a good catch me in trouble.
Issia, if PNP wins?
And I'm supposed to complete this?
Yes, complete the sentence. If PNP wins.
Well, if PNP wins, I hope that they do everything within their power
To ensure that Jamaica becomes the place for people, the ideal place for people to work, raise family, and do business.
Joel, I'm back at you. If JLP wins,
It's time, if JLP wins, it's time to maximize on the efforts to maintain the areas that were flourishing in Jamaica and create a better space to flourish.
Christopher, if JLP wins.
If JLP wins, I hope that. Hold on, Jesus.
You want me to go to Issia and come back to you? Issia, if JLP wins.
Wow, okay. If JLP wins, I hope that they will continue in executing and applying, executing their efforts and, applying their
skill set to ensure that Jamaica remains the choice for people to work, live, raise family, and do business.
Vision 2030 is huh?
Yes. So Christopher, I'm sure you would now have an idea.
Should have just said that, boy.
All right, so if JLP wins, I hope that they continue to build on what has been laid, but improve upon and allow different channels of accessibility and inclusion for more Jamaicans, especially those who are vulnerable.
Well, we're entirely out of time. I wanted to ask you guys who you think will win the election, and I also wanted to ask you about what's happening now and COVID. So I don't have enough time for both. Which one do you choose, Nomdarkam?
Definitely what's something with COVID. I could care less who win. I just really want to see, policies being passed. I want to see the vulnerable being more involved and integrated. I want to see people taking their role seriously. I want to see people acting as if they have a job description as to what a member of parliament is and what a councillor is. I want to see whoever the leader is of the country being very stringent in enforcing certain mishappenings. I want to see a country, as Issia mentioned, where we can, how it go, raise family, do business. Vision 2030 could care less who win, but I just want the best of my country. Jamaicans should win at the end of the day.
Issia, which of the questions or the options do you take?
I mean, I don't know who I think will win. I really hope that the JLP maintains power, in all honesty. And there are some amazing candidates on the PNP side, and I want to have that balance because I don't think all the bright people should be on one side. But I'd want to see the JLP win. I think they've done a very good job since they've been in power. And I've always said, I hear people talk about sufferation in PNP times and sufferation in JLP times, and I prefer the sufferation under JLP government.
Christopher?
All right, so I'm going to choose the COVID one. And
I know you would.
And the only thing I would want to say is that they need to understand their role as leaders and that the public takes instructions and directions from them. So they need to be more responsible in their campaigning, how they engage different communities, because you can't be carrying on a certain way and then expect the people who are voting for you to be carrying on entirely different. So social responsibility starts with our leaders. And that's how we'll have our citizens adhering to many of these protocols that are put in place.
Well, thank you so very much, Christopher Harper. Great note on which to end this edition of Eye on the Polls, a part of the Jamaica Gleaners Jamaica Votes series. Thanks also to Issia Thelwell and to Joel Nomdarkam. I'm Damion Mitchell. Thanks for watching.